Some road trips are made for clearing your mind. For me, it was supposed to be peace, a long solo drive across the country. But that night, somewhere on a deserted stretch of highway, I realized I wasn't alone. Something or someone was following me. It was the kind of clear, crisp evening that made the prospect of a long road trip feel almost magical. The road stretched out before me, endless and inviting, with the winding asphalt leading from Wisconsin all the way to Montana. I had a plan: start my journey in the evening, drive through the night, and reach my destination by morning. A bit ambitious, perhaps, but I was determined to cut the trip short by not stopping overnight. It felt like the right choice, even if it meant missing out on a decent hotel bed and a proper night's sleep. I started the trip at 7 p.m., double-checking that everything was packed and ready: snacks, drinks, and my trusty playlist for the long drive. The first hour went by easily, the car humming along as I passed through small towns and rolling hills, with the last vestiges of city lights fading behind me. I was entering the real heart of the countryside now, an area devoid of much civilization, save for the occasional farmhouse or a stray car. It was peaceful, quiet, and the perfect opportunity for introspection. I had always enjoyed these solo drives. They provided a rare moment of solitude. But as the miles passed and the sky turned darker, I noticed the emptiness of the roads. The usual traffic I had grown used to on the highways had faded away completely. The night was becoming almost too quiet. The only sounds were the hum of my car's engine and the occasional chirp of crickets in the fields that seemed to stretch endlessly on either side. By now, it had been a couple of hours, and I noticed my fuel gauge dipping lower than I was comfortable with. There wasn't a gas station in sight, and I couldn't risk running out of gas in the middle of nowhere. I kept driving, searching for a sign of civilization. After what felt like an eternity, I finally spotted a gas station in the distance. A small, run-down place tucked between two stretches of forest. The lights of the station flickered weakly, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. It was quiet, and I couldn't see a soul in sight. I pulled into the gas station, relieved to find a place to fill up. The moment I stepped out of the car, the night air hit me, cool and crisp. The rain had started to fall lightly, and the soft pitter-patter on the car roof provided a rhythmic background to my thoughts. As I started to pump gas, the silence around me deepened, and an unsettling feeling crept over me. There was no one else around, and the station felt abandoned. The only sign of life was the dimly lit convenience store. But the door was locked, and no lights flickered inside. As I stood there, lost in thought, the sound of an engine broke the silence. A car, headlights cutting through the rain, approached slowly from the direction I had just come. I assumed it was just another traveler, perhaps a late-night driver, but as the car passed by the station, it slowed down drastically, almost as if the driver were carefully inspecting the station. The car then backed up slowly, making its way toward the pump right behind me. It was an odd maneuver, but I dismissed it as coincidence. I offered a quick, awkward smile and nodded in greeting, but he didn't return it. Instead, he continued to stare at me with an unsettling intensity. My pulse quickened. There was something about the way he looked at me that made me uneasy. It was like he was analyzing me, studying me for some unknown reason. I quickly turned away and focused on finishing up with the gas pump. But despite trying to shake the feeling, it remained. I rushed to finish, quickly locking the gas cap and hurrying back to my car. My hands were shaking slightly as I fumbled with the door handle, desperate to put distance between myself and the man who had now moved over to his car. I could feel his eyes on me, and the weight of his gaze lingered long after I'd shut the door. I pulled out of the gas station quickly, not wanting to linger any longer. As I drove down the road, I glanced in my rearview mirror, expecting to see the dark sedan following me, but nothing was there. The road was empty behind me, and for a few moments I allowed myself to relax. Maybe I was just overthinking it. The man was probably just another tired traveler. But as I drove deeper into the night, the unease refused to fade. The further I went, the more isolated the road became. The rain picked up, and my mind started to wander. Could it have been nothing? Could I have been too quick to jump to conclusions? But every time I looked in the rearview mirror, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. Hours passed, and I began to feel the effects of the long drive. Exhaustion crept up on me, and I realized I needed a break. Another gas station appeared on the horizon, offering a chance to stretch my legs and refuel. This station was a little more modern than the last, with bright lights and a few parked cars. I filled up quickly, but the heavy fatigue in my eyes made me long for a short nap. I parked my car by the side of the building, leaned the seat back, and closed my eyes. The rain fell steadily against the roof, and for a few moments, I allowed myself to drift off into a light sleep. When I awoke, I felt groggy and disoriented. My eyes flicked open, and the first thing I noticed was the headlights. There, parked next to me at the pump, was the same dark sedan from earlier. My heart skipped a beat as I sat up straighter. How had he found me? How had he tracked me here? The rain had stopped, and the mist hung in the air like a shroud. I looked around nervously, but the station was still eerily quiet. No one was moving around, and no one had exited the car. My gaze shifted to the front of the station, and there he was, standing in front of my car, watching me once again. I couldn't take it anymore. My instincts screamed at me to leave. I started the car, but just as I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw him again. He was standing in the middle of the parking lot, his eyes fixed on me as if he were waiting for something. I slammed the car into reverse and drove out of the station at full speed. As I glanced in the mirror, the dark sedan was gone. I didn't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. There was no car behind me, but the silence felt wrong. The night seemed to stretch on, endless and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, he's still on the road, maybe watching someone else at a gas station. Or maybe he never left my back seat, and I just haven't turned around to see.